From page 69, now that Mr. Khatete crisscrossed the village with a new message of hope, he never acted to appeal to the interests of people, but stuck to his objective and the need of the social demands, the need to create awareness for the reserved to see the changing world. Most of them would want to stick to their usual habit and normal lifestyle, but Khatete knocked something into their skull. The likes of Geoffrey, Wawile, Wahisi, and Osike actually objected vehemently, citing one thing, that Khatete liked children. He did not have women to consume his time and energy. Such were few among men who refused to pay their tax and contribution for the school construction. Their refusal to join the team that dug holes, laid poles, and named runners for the school construction was a clear indication that they were pessimists. None of them gave chicken or a cock in support for the spirit of Harambee, pulling together. That was the spirit for the pulling together in the community development. They lived pointing an index finger at him, accused him of distorting the minds of young, brilliant warriors who ought to be prepared to execute a foreseen battle against the Ndorobo community on the mountain Elgon. They ought to meet, the youths ought to meet every afternoon, showcase their attack effect on throwing spears, at the same time shielding on a strong goat's skin. Some would point at a target and let out leaf from an arrow out of a bow to hit the mark. Any successful sharp soldier actually got some enough rewards, cowrie shells for a present. Life is so dynamic. While you try to solve one thing or there's one problem, another one develops. You create more and more multiple problems. Even for that reason, one big boy, as the President of the Republic Kenya, Mr. Moi, formed commissions of inquiry that formed subsequent commissions to form other inquiries, perhaps to solve one government issue. Chains of commissions that will come down in a lane to deal with one matter of a government issue. Just to solve one single government issue, you'll get down a Sephiroth's commission to get, perhaps to be able to get down to and nail down a big fish that ought to be brought into a book, while the real culprits will never be found. One prominent inquiry that nagged the government officials came to Goldenberg in a scandal that made an Indian boy, Mr. Patton, surrender his religion, Hinduism, and embraced a Christian faith. After a tough question that blew his minds, I guess he lost so much, plus more of his questionable wealth, and disposed wealth that had been disposed under his name. The former regime had done and concealed and clear deals with him. Embarrassed for the new knowledge, he came down to his knees and accepted Christ for sanity. That's when a fight for corruption had brought down cartels and shook the mighty in the government offices. He actually accepted Jesus Christ, converted into Christianity, and began to behold Christianity fail. He preached the Bible, he opened a church and went around preaching the goodness of Lord. He actually testified the salvation of Christ from the hands of government officials after being traumatized with an inquisitive commission. In the village, I actually liked the decency of our man Khatete. He dressed smartly with a tie he wore with the tie actually found from the white missionaries. He also dressed like the whites, with clothes that were ironed. Of course, his first wife did the washing because it was his custom for a bird to rest on a tree. Mr. Hadid had no option but to sleep in his house after the long, tiresome day. His wife was wise. She also encouraged him in what he was doing. This made Khatete to like her. He developed a passion to hang on with her all the time. He rounded up his day's activities, and so he came home and discussed that day's adventure with his wife. But before he slept, he would ask her to turn over. He had to, and a must for any normal person, to taste the sweet things. And also very early in the morning before he left, that very little moment, actually was able she was able to conceive, and she gave birth to two. A very tiny rope by the head can control such a strong bull. Those were Khatete's words. I had gone to seek his advice some days before. Some people are like stones. You can't cook a stone and hope it becomes edible. Adding ingredients will have just caused more troubles and spoil the soup. Neither can you make a soup out of such igneous and granite rocks. The stone-headed natives, adding oil, pepper, salt, and more ingredients will have not spiced up anything. Cooking for days won't have changed anything in their minds. Adding some little salt will have created more problems than a solution. A fertile land can produce as many large cassavas even without cultivating. At the count of 10 cows, there must be one with an increased appetite, one that has to sneak and take something or an extra grass from the neighbor. A rat will always eat what it finds on its way, rather than collect, prepare, and cook on a nice meal for her and the family. Perhaps make a dinner on a well-arranged table. Those were many and more proverbial proverbs Khatete used in his speech. How did you know that a woman? He continued focused to the ultimatum card. He lived a worried life, as though failure to live his dreams is failure to the whole society. His was open to criticism and prepared for an open crisis. For instance, he had heard of the debate on the British House of Commons. He tried to narrate something to the sitting, but Moses rose to his feet and demanded a proof to his wordings. Conspired with some like Zakayo, they became defined the narrations of the man on the stage, the main speaker of the day. How did you know that a woman rules people? How did you find the name of that woman? Call her Queen Elizabeth. How sure are you that she was the most powerful person worldwide, even to supersede her man? Never. Never shall, a, never shall come a day for a woman to rule over a man. After all, she will always lie down, and her man, as men, will sleep on her and rule, even for one single minute or a second, before her guards come over to rescue her. Khatete tolerated anarchy of uncivilized villagers. He knew he can never have everyone as a friend or have everything as his, neither take a good care of everyone. He will walk humble, meek, and with humility to sojourn on to an unknown destiny. I was about to finish my primary studies. I wrote my last junior certificate of primary education paper and walked straight to our mowing cattle as I would wait for the result. I had also grown curious to adventure to the urban center Bungoma. I was Fable Land Hateta that I talked about, a tree that will produce some fruits in our community, but first, I wondered if my effort will impact anything in the village. If I had managed to control Naliaga by the head with a small tiny rope, then God of Moses would give me a stick to lead the stone-headed villagers. Most of our villages were stones that after all those lessons and speeches they had heard from Khatete, they had no sense and no need to abandon their culture and praise the new development. If adding some little soup was and maybe some little force, some people like Hama will feast on you. He will kill you for wasting his time. He can't afford to miss his sweet times with Chebet and spend time thinking of big and realistic dreams. I was one cow among the 10 cows with an increased appetite. I had taken an extra grass within the village. A trouble began cooking and developing for me back in the village. You see, you can't step extra miles and fail to welcome unnecessary consequences for yourself. I smelled a rat out of that circumstance and after thinking twice, made resolutions to move out of the village, get somewhere safe for my soul and that of Naliak, seek an asylum for my safety. Mr. Nyongeza had noticed the growing stomach of his beloved daughter Naliaka. He demanded to know the boy responsible for her pregnancy. Naliaka was still young, inexperienced girl, with the after many injections of love going more sweeter. She could not prevent anything, perhaps stressed on preventive measures. She was caught off guard and unaware of her safe days. She didn't know the period of days either, and so she conceived I had given her an anesthesia. Sweet words, poetically analyzed with phrases from the books of Proverbs and Songs of Solomon, that opened her heart and found herself loose. For me, we sold together and rolled over and over, just two of us, inside deep waters of passion, oblivious of the consequences and possible remedies. We were yet officially engaged, either customary or religiously, a couple of livestock, perhaps, and parents exchanging their notes on their pride bus would have cemented the customary law. But we perfected on an unofficial marriage that we played in the bush, made our love affair somewhere in the bush. The worst news came that in the next market day, Naleka will be sent to the other village, Malakiz, where she would live with her paternal auntie. She would reside there for her delivery. That's the place her auntie had been married to and lived there for decades. She will stay there until she gives birth. To conceal shame and reproach brought about with a girl delivered in their homestead, that was a big shame to her parents. Again, she had brought shame to his father Nyongeza. Such a days, the virgin will be celebrated in her days of marriage and fetched a lot of for bride price. A good number of cattle, sheep, and goats, sheep for mother and numberless goats to be shared for her aunties and uncles. A big celebration indeed will be observed after their daughter has been honest, diligent to the custom laws. She was a queen. So Nyongeza was going to miss all that. Naleka and I had grown such big intimacy. Already she was my wife. In our minds, we were fixed and already married. Even before our parental advice and blessings, we will stick together for our own good. I asked Naleka to consider the fact that the destiny belonged to us. Bound by the love and affection, separating me and Naleka will be a fact never to come into our minds. We were inseparable. Nothing of that kind will be considered at all costs. We won't let people mingle within our love and put forth our marriage for their materialistic gain. Perhaps our parents, we shall continue from there.